And now I'll rise above you.
Right. For you new guys that just showed up along with Asni, do not mind me being in the simulator or anything like that. I just wanted to test something right quick that will take about a minute before I go with the next squad of people that are waiting for me down here, and then we'll do a little bit more Steel Path stuff, just, you know, casual things, and probably check on the fishers as well. And right as you guys raided, I asked chat if while I'm at the simulator, if there's something that they want me to show anyway, or go into a little bit of talking about damage types and blah blah, because that's also part of the material of one of my upcoming videos that I'm going to upload to YouTube. So yeah, feel free to weigh into that decision, guys. What was I going to try here? Oh, right, yes, Grenier. Let me grab a Grenier or two and do my quick test so I can yeet out of here. In the meantime, you guys will be dropping your opinions whether or not I should test, or not test, but show you guys some other stuff revolving around damage. Rip Death Cube. Death Cube was my first Sentinel and I loved him. I picked because of the name. I was like, Death Cube, that sounds better than this thing, you know? Well, I'm gonna go with the Death Cube. I was really happy. On my low peasant levels when I started playing Warframe, that Death Cube shredded. It was really nice. Alright, let me do this test right quick. I want to see something. That's the wrong one. That's the right one. 3 of those and 6 of those. Alright, good. So that works as intended and as I suspected that it would. Very good. Okay. Yep. Alright, good to go. Good to go. So, oh, right, to just kind of rewind, for those who don't use the extension or maybe have that shit shut off or turned off, whatever, I'll show you the build right quick. So no need to copy this build or whatever, or quickly screenshot or panic or whatever. I'll tell you what's going on. This is my C configuration. It's a test. I just now whipped this together right quick because I wanted to see something and visualize it. This is a intended full slash build, right? But on the wrong weapon. I wanted to look at something, a trait that slash does, which I can't accurately represent with this weapon because it has too much impact. It needs to be mainly slash, preferably only slash, but it doesn't matter. And I wanted to test something and show if it works the way I thought it would, and it does. Now, a while ago, I was... Jin, hello there. I have a question. Did you get 2 Atadai guns? Yes, I did. So I was just saying a moment ago that when it comes to damage and whatnot, there are several ways that you can go in Warframe. Either you can make your damage so high that it overpowers the enemy's damage resistances, okay? So the things that they use to protect their HP, okay? So for Grenier, that is armor. For Corpus, it is shields. Right? Those are the 2 things that protect the enemies and ultimately stop them from dying, which makes them really annoying to kill if you're using the wrong damage types. So if you're using, you have 2 approaches with both scenarios, right? Number 1, you can build something that is so strong that it will very effectively damage that the armor and chomp it down to irrelevant levels like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10% of what it once was, and the damage that'll still bleed over to the HP just becomes so high that you ultimately kill them, which is what most people do for whatever reason. I don't know why that approach is the meta. I don't know why that approach seems to be the only one that people know about. But there is another very, very viable option, and that is to bypass the resistance entirely. And that is exactly what slash damage will do. However, to be very, very, very specific, please pardon the crash course in damage really quickly. The bleed damage itself doesn't do shit with armor. It will attack armor, but it's really, really bad against armor. However, the resulting status effect called bleed ignores armor. It deals so-called true damage, which means that if your weapon fires 100 damage of bleed at an enemy with 1 billion armor, then the bleed proc will just bypass the armor completely, and the full 100 damage points will actually hit the HP, which is exactly what I just did with these enemies right here. So the idea behind this build is this. Emphasize on slash. Again, this is the wrong weapon because it doesn't have enough slash damage. I should have more slash innately, okay? But I needed a single shot kind of weapon that just goes boom and look what happens, boom, look what happens. The comb would be a better option, yes, but that with the full automatic mechanic, that's a little bit too messy, too tricky. So I went with this one, it'll do fine. So you emphasize on the slash, right? You bring the status chance up as high as you can because you want that slash to happen often, right? The slash proc, aka the bleed, because the slash damage is irrelevant, but the bleed is. You could also add crits and whatnot, and on this build specifically, I added viral damage. Why? Because viral is a sneaky type of crit, if you will. It'll multiply my outgoing damage. So these enemies over here having level 170, and you can see their HP is, their level is, not their HP level, but their freaking health bar is yellow. Yellow means armor. So behind the yellow, you can't see it, but behind the yellow is the red HP. So what I'm going to do is shoot him in the head. It'll crit. Is that a slash in there? Yeah, there's a slash in there and 6 virals. It'll crit with viral, basically, or thanks to viral, it'll crit and it'll bleed behind the armor, right? So that's why this is effective at killing. You can bypass that, just straight up bypass. Look at that bleed. Look at that insane bleed, right? This isn't affecting the armor. We're not touching the armor. The other direction would be, I'll just show you. Is this okay, guys? Do you want me to shut the fuck up? If you want to, I'll shut the hell up. But, I mean, as long as you guys feel like this is interesting or whatever, I'll keep going. Thing that can proc the bleed effect is the slash damage type. Correct. The bleed is an effect that comes from slash damage, aka not slash, but damage types have their own procs, okay, aka status effects. The damage type is the mama, and the status effect, the proc, is the bebe, right? Bleed and slash is the same thing then? No, not at all. Not at all. The difference is that this slash, this thing that you see here, this damage is, well, slash damage. Kind of pay attention to the words that I'm using. I'll try to be as accurate as I can. This is a damage type, right? This damage type has a certain weight behind it, a certain impact behind it, right? Which happens to be 46.6 points of damage, right? And this damage type is garbage against armored units, which the Grineer happen to be, right? Because it hits the armor, right? However, slash damage has a chance to proc bleed, and bleed is a status type, right? Not a damage type, but a status type, or a proc, if you want to make it short. And that proc does not attack the armor, it bypasses it entirely, ignores it completely. Which means that effectively bleed procs that come from slash damage don't care about armor. The armor can be 100 trillion, right? You'll still murder the enemy very easily because it'll bypass the armor. You don't have to actually crunch through it. An easier faction to show that on would be the Corpus. I'll show you in a second. But okay, let's go with Corrosion. Corrosion, right? What does Corrosion do? Corrosion as a damage type attacks armor very effectively. Much more effectively than slash damage. Slash deals reduced damage to armor, right? So this 46 damage points right here won't actually be 46 on the armor itself, right? It'll be less because it's reduced, because armor is good against slash damage, right? Now, Corrosion is the other way around. Corrosion deals extra damage against armor. The armor, not the HP, but the armor of the enemy, right? Well, the HP too, because it kind of, but that's beside the point. Just so you can visualize this better, right? So corrosion is good against armor. And the proc that comes from corrosion reduces the overall percentage of the armor, aka making them squishier. So you have two options. Either you make an enemy squishier and squishier and squishier with successive corrosion procs, right, to make them easier to kill, or you ignore making them squishy and just bypass the thing that makes them buff to begin with and just murder them in a sneaky way. So now let's try the same thing with corrosion and see what it does. It'll probably behave very differently. Probably also not bad, though. This guy, let's go with this one. He has full HP. Go with a full headshot. We've got a puncture, a slash, and a corrosion proc. You see the bleed? Look at that bleed. And look at the burst damage there, too. It's not bad, right? Let's do another one. See, it's not horrible. It truly isn't. It's decent, actually. That was a good one. That was with crits, though, too. That was a really good one. But the difference is that this damage, this build, has to break down the armor. What are you looking for? I think it's somewhere in the kitchen, actually.
Operator.
So the difference is both effective, both work. Let me do one more enemy. This is a corrosion slash build. Okay. Let's do another one. I'm gonna wait in between so you can actually see the effects a little bit. You know, not just spam, just, you know, a little casual boom. You can see how kind of the damage is working, right? This build is busy chomping through and chomping down the armor, which is totally a-okay. You can do that. But what are you going to do when these enemies have an armor value of, let's say, 1 trillion, right? It's too much chomping. That's too much that the corrosion has to eat. Whereas, let's go back with the viral slash, just to compare. Okay, viral. That's the only thing I changed. Now it's no longer corrosive, it is viral. And the only job that viral has in this case, in this particular build, is to increase the bleed proc that bypasses, okay? That's the only job that the viral has here. It does nothing with armor, it's not great or whatever, doesn't matter. What it does is increase the backstabbing, essentially. Let's go here. So you can see how it works differently. You see how it bleeds behind the armor much severely? That is because the bleed proc doesn't give a shit about the armor. That is why this is actually faction-specific, the superior build. And that is also the reason why I laughed at 100% status chance, radiation, gas, or whatever the fucking build was, Tigris mains back in the day. Because they did not know about this. I even mentioned it in the video where I say I guess those Tigris mains have never heard of status effects and damage resistances. This is why. Because right now, with lower builds, it won't matter. Corrosion will be strong enough to chomp through that armor and ultimately kill the enemy. It would seem even fairly effectively, right? But as the enemies scale up in difficulty, so does their armor. And as their armor goes up, essentially everything that has to attack the armor gets weaker and weaker and weaker, or has to work harder and harder and harder. And eventually, you will not be able to keep up. Okay? Does that make any sense? Okay, now let me go ahead and kill off all of these guys here. So again, the message is bypassing the enemy-specific damage resistance will always, forever, in any scenario, be more effective and more viable for longer than dealing with their damn resistances. With Grineer, it happens to be armor. Bypass the armor and they can have 100 trillion armor value. It won't fucking matter because you'll just go behind it, right? Now with Corpus, I can visualize that easier. Let me go here.
A new follower, peasant.
And just go ahead and grab a couple of Corpus douchebags. And like I said, this is also going to be part of the next video that I'm going to do, but I might as well share it with you guys because why not? So Corpus, okay, let's go look at them right quick. unlike Grenier, for whatever reason, I don't understand, you see that they have some red HP, right? And some blue. The blue is on top of the HP. The blue is protecting the HP. We have to get to the HP to murder them, right? Now, let me go ahead and take off all of my status things from this weapon. Let's take off everything, actually. It doesn't matter. I can rebuild it really quickly. Yeah, right. Remove all. So we're taking off everything. What is left is only the regular base damage things. Impact, puncture, slash. No, nothing else. Okay? It doesn't matter. We could increase the damage and all that shit. It does not matter. But just to show you guys. I don't know why, by the way, Corpus have their HP and then their shield value displayed separately, and Grenier have it stacked on top of each other with the yellow. I don't know why it's like that. I don't know why it's not uniform. Whatever. But if we fire at this enemy, what we should see happening is that all of the damage types that we have, be it puncture, be it impact, be it slash, all of them should affect and damage only the shield, because none of them bypass any shields. Okay? And Corpus have shield gating. So nothing is going to get to the HP until you chomp through the shield, right? So we should see only blue numbers here. That looks like only blue numbers to me. Let's see if we can get a bleed proc. And then you'll see that the shield actually bleeds and not the HP. Ah, there's a bleed proc. Can you see it? Can you see how it's bleeding? It stopped now. How it was bleeding only shield? Let's stack them up a little bit. Look at him bleed shield. You see that? Those ticks? That's bleeding. It's only the shield. So, as a player, I now have the option to deal with the shield or bypass the shield again. So, if I would want to deal with the shield, which is the inferior way, but if I would want to deal with the shield, here's what I would build. Same weapon, right? Let's assume this is the only weapon in the game. There are others that would be more built for this specific kind of approach.
Oh, look. A new follower present.
But that's okay. Let's disregard that for a second. So we need to know what deals with shield very well. What does decent damage against shield? Well, impact for one. So let's increase the impact damage. There we go. Impact, full contact, also impact. Now we're doing a massive amount of impact damage. Impact versus shields is kind of like corrosive versus thanks, cutie. It's kind of like corrosive versus armor. It's just really good against shield, and we want to deal with the shield. We want to get rid of the shield. Yeah? Okay. So impact the shit out of it. Now, what else deals well with shields? Magnetic. Magnetic is disgusting against shields. Also, pro tip, nullifiers are also shields. I'm just saying. What the fuck? Ah, right. Okay, so... Okay, magnetic. So we're going to need our frigid blast, cold, and we're going to need some kind of shell shock. Okay, there we go. So cold and electricity, and we've got our magnetic damage. I use these two because I want to increase the status at the same time. Status increases the effect from magnetic and impact, which both will, you know, hit, well, not the impact one, but the magnetic proc will attack those shields and get rid of them really quickly. And we want that to happen as effectively as possible and as often as possible. So now, so that it remains authentic, we're not going to add any other damage mods, we're not going to add any slash shit or crits or anything. We're just going to status the rest of the shit up and leave it at that. So there are two ways to increase statuses. Number one, you can use actual status stuff. We're not going to use the abilities. This one, so just a 90% status chance increase, which is a really, really, really nice mod. And finally became relevant thanks to the shield gating changes and whatnot. And where's the other one? We could also do multi-shot, which does increase the damage, but not because it's direct, just because it just, you know, spawns more bullets and whatnot. So let's just do that. That's A-okay. It's whatever. All right, so now we have a grand total of 48 magnetic damage and a total of 3,500 damage. So this build should We'll put it to the test and see if I actually know what the fuck I'm talking about. This build should, instead of kind of like poking at the shield just a little bit like, oh my god, please go down so I can attack the HP. This build should, with a few shots, noticeably wreck that blue health bar. Let's see. Look at that. One shot and the health is almost exposed. Look at that. This red, by the way, that red, that means that their shield is affected. Their shield is reduced. Look at that. I'm at their HP. 2 shots. Will he regenerate, actually? Entirely? No. Right. So once you break it, it's gone. Bye-bye shield. No more shield. So there you go. Magnetic. Now, I could use the magnetic and the other damage that I have on this build and use that to attack the HP, and it'll work okay. You see? I'm doing the damage. Like I said, HP in Warframe is really weak. So whatever you use against HP doesn't matter. It's strong enough to murder. Look at that. It's a-okay, you know? Not super effective, but it's all right. So again, you have the same issue. When you go to sortie level, the enemies have proto shield, where essentially the things that you're seeing up there, the red versus the blue ratio, is the other way around. They have very, very small HP, not because they have very little HP, but because their shield is so massive that if they would make it in this ratio, the shield would go all the way over to the next Corpus unit to the right's head, right? That's how long it would be. So it's just scaled down. That's why the HP looks like this and the shield like this, right? That is proto shield. If you do that kind of shit versus steel path level, you will need a lot of damage to crunch through that shield, right? And at some point, especially if you're someone who likes to do long runs, you will get to a point where that shield will be more than the ammo your weapon even holds, right? So what if we could just ignore the shield again, like with armor, and bypass it entirely? Is that even possible? Fuck yes, it is. And I'll show you how. It's ridiculous. It's so silly. It's so simple. Is there nothing on here? I'll show you. Okay, let me actually go to the vanilla. If you want the one single build best to deal with Corpus shielded units, okay, the one single only thing you need to think about is this. Done. That is it. Toxin damage, or at least the proc from it, which is poison, bypasses enemy shields. Just like slash or bleed status chance or status bypasses armor. So you have something to deal with Grineer, no matter what their level is, and you have something to deal with Corpus, no matter what their levels are, right? So this is the only thing that you need, is just go full toxin build. Now with this knowledge, the video on the Kuva weapons makes a lot more sense because of the way you can modify them and which resulting damage types you'll get out of there. Okay, so let's go ahead and remove Frigid Blast and this, hello, go please. And only get our toxin. Let's ramp that toxin way up. Toxin, I'll throw that on here. Contagion spread as well. Now we got 3,800 toxin damage. Let's see, is there anything else on here that I'm missing? Is there anything maybe status-y that I can do? I mean, I could do longer. Sure, Lingering Torment for longer poison effect. So, now we have, you can see it down here, a full toxin stun. So what should happen, again, let's just put it to the test and see if I actually know what I'm talking about. Oh my god, Jizo, your builds suck! On YouTube. What should happen here with toxin is if I shoot at this dude, the base damage types, like the impact and the other ones, they should attack the shield because they can't bypass it. So we should see a few blue damage numbers, right? But the toxin should bypass the shield and we should see white damage numbers mixed into there, okay? And in any case, we will see that some HP is going to be removed from this enemy. So let's see what that does. Look at that. You see his HP? The bleed even went through with it. He's bleeding on his HP. But what if you just use a Warframe that drains all their shield and armor? Yes, like Nyx, doesn't matter. The situation when you're facing enemies that have a damage resistance versus situation where the enemy has no damage resistances, right, are two different stories. For example, if I were to go, this is Steel Path, my Mesa, Peacemakers, toxin damage if I'm going against Corpus. Why? Because I don't need to worry about the fucking shields, right? She shoots right through the shields and attacks the HP immediately and just murders them and never even touches the shield, right? And the same logic goes against armored units with the viral and slash, right? That's why. Now, if I would be playing Garuda on Steel Path against Corpus, and I'd have to use the Strun, this is the Strun that I would use. I would modify it a little bit differently to, you know, add some crits in there for even more big damage and whatnot and blah blah. Sure, all of that is fine, but this is just for demonstration purposes, right? If I'm a Garuda, because Garuda can't remove anything, right? Garuda has the one-shot mechanic though, so that's a thing too. If I were a Warframe like Nyx, right? Let's go over here and grab Nyx, and I'll visualize that really quickly too. It's all super easy, really. When you know, you know. If I'm Nyx and I go over here and I look at all these bastards with their pretty little blue shields that inhibit me from murdering them, I just take their shields away, boom. These are naked babies, and as such, they are very easy to kill. Now, no matter what, Corpus without any resistance are flesh, okay? I mean, they're made of humanoid something, they're flesh. Grineer without their armor are also flesh, right? You know what's really good against flesh? Slash. Slash is really good against flesh. Then you have faction-specific damage types that just do better against them, like Puncture versus Grineer and Impact versus Corpus, right? And if you know these things, nothing in Warframe is difficult to murder. And if you know these things, a lot of my builds also make more sense. I'm not going to sit here and look at whatever's the meta. Oh, heat and viral. Oh god, that's the best ever. Oh my god. I don't do that shit. I'm like, listen, you can do this as well. You can do this as well. And with this information, now you understand why I was laughing at the Tigris mains, who bashed me. Who bashed me when they said, you have to do 100% status chance radiation gas Tigris. No. Sure, the nature of the way the Tigris used to work with the pellets and 100% status chance versus the enemy levels back then, the way it was, yes, it did two-shot every enemy because all of the damage working in on the HP at the same time was just enough to murder them that effectively. So in that sense, all those Tigris mains were right. That is a very decent build. It is not the best build, however. See, when they get to the damage levels where the armor starts to resist radiation and starts to resist the gas or whatever the fuck else they built onto that, and the slash and all that, they were screwed. They were screwed. Back then, corrosion was needed because with corrosive shots, you could reduce the ammo, the armor to 0, which you can't do anymore. There is a maximum stack. What is that, I think down to 20% or something, or 10? I'm not sure. It doesn't matter though anyways. Imagine using corrosive damage. And the Tigris mains didn't get that. If the Tigris mains had done several hours of survival and tried their fucking Tigris one-shot shit against those enemies, they would have laughed at them. Because there was nothing that would either bypass or even reduce the armor. So whatever they were using had to chomp through the armor. I'm going to show you guys, I think I can show this with Mesa very well actually. Mesa, let's go with her and look at what I'm actually on. I think I was actually against, this is also the Steel Path Mesa, by the way. What am I doing? Yes, I'm only Toxin. So this Mesa build, I don't like having different builds. I don't like having to go here and changing builds and, oh, I need, where's my Corpus specific build? I don't like doing that. I like to, if I want to play anything in the game, I like to grab that Warframe and just be ready to rock and roll. With Steel Path, however, that isn't always possible, but I want to make it as easy as possible for you guys to keep it simple. And the answer is down here, regulators. So my regulators have Toxin. All the other shit doesn't matter. I don't care. You can change it however you want. You can say this ability is this build is garbage. I don't give a shit. Fact of the matter is, toxin only, as you just saw, versus shielded enemies. Ha! Big lol for them, right? It doesn't matter what enemy level these guys are right now up in the front. It doesn't matter anymore. Their shields can be 100 trillion. They could have 100 septillion shield. It won't matter. Now that's a little... Where are the... There they are. Over here. These guys have no shield. If I regulate them, I just shoot right past the shield. Right past all the shield. I'm just destroying their HP. Why bother with the shield? You know? And yes, you did see blue damage numbers, and I'll show you why. Again, regulators as well as regular weapons also have these base damage types, and all of these do not bypass shields. All of these try to crunch through the shield first, which is why you see the blue damage numbers. But the main damage is coming from this massive toxin, and that bypasses. So, yeah. Now, if I were to want to go to any other enemy level, not enemy level, a faction, let's say I want to go to Grenier, then I go over here, look for viral, and add cold in here somewhere. It doesn't matter. Put it, oh, look at that. Slap it. Oh, it doesn't fit on there. Fine, put it here then. There you go, viral. Boom, ready to go for Grenier Steel Path, right? Do I want to go against, I don't know, Infested? Infested, here we go. I go over here, grab Scorch, and slap it in there. Boom, I got gas damage. That's it. Done. Build done. Go against Steel Path anything with the appropriate damage type. It's that simple. Corrosive removes 80% armor. Up to 80% armor. That's important. Yes, corrosion removes 80% of the armor. Yes, heat removes half of that. Yes, heat caps out at half, I think is right. I'm assuming you're getting your information accurately from the wiki or whatever right now. And I think that was actually the right number, so yeah. And corrosive projection can stack on top of these. Yes, so you can still use weapons to remove the armor. Sure, with weapons. You can do that if you kind of coordinate with corrosive projection and whatnot, but just logically, okay? Logically. You're going up against Grenier right now. Let's say I'm prepping for Steel Path right here. What is easier? Okay? What is more convenient and stops you less? Which poses less obstacles for you to go into Steel Path and just start actually playing the game? Because you come to Warframe not because you want to play around with mods all day. If you want to play around with cards all day, play Gwent or some shit, right? You want to get in and kill shit. What is easier? Going over to my Mesa and I'm like, oh, I'm going to play Mesa. I want to do Sortie level or Kuva Survival or Steel Path. Going over here and then going over the build and going like, well, Pistol Amp is in here because that's pretty good for the regulators or whatever. Oh, maybe I should go. How am I going to put corrosive projection? Oh, I don't know if it's gonna fit. Ah, shit, I gotta form a. Oh, maybe I should go down here to the regulars and also somehow put in corrosive damage. I don't know how is it gonna fit. Is that easier, or is it easier to just go to the regulators and change one mod? Boom, I'm ready to go against Grenier. You understand my mentality of approaching this game? I want to provide you guys with the maximum amount of fun, easy peasy, okay? I don't want to provide you guys with the fucking meta. I don't want to provide you guys with the cheese, which is brain numbing, right? Who wants cheese? Who wants to just sit in a corner and press one button and then go make some coffee? That's not fun, you know? I want to show you guys the vast pool of ways you can go about this game. And I prefer to do it this way. Same with my X-Cal, by the way. Let's go with, I think it was Umbra that I was using it on. Umbra. Wait a minute. No Forma Umbra? Big suspicious. So before I go into my Umbra and I go over here and I'm like, oh, I gotta reconfigure this bastard for Steel Path. Me. No. No. I go down to his Exalted Blade because I am going to be using it. And I already have Toxin here. So this here is already the Corpus Slayer. If I want to make it a Grenier Slayer, I'll turn it into Viral. Right? And so on and so forth. If I want to make it an Infested Slayer, I'll use Gas. And that's it. Exchange one mod. Nothing else. You're good to go. You're good to rock and roll. Easy peasy. Done deal. You know? I ain't got that kind of time to reformat everything 150,000 times just so I can go, I do 101 million damage! Shut up.